So how about this? Carson Wentz is an Indianapolis Colt. I think if Colts fans heard that a year ago, they would have been very excited. Obviously, things have changed since then from Carson Wentz, but I still think Colts fans should be excited. I think this is a great buy low situation. I think Carson Wentz can still be good. Let's talk about what went wrong last season. But before I do that, just so you know what the trade ended up being, basically Carson Wentz for a 2021 third-round pick and a 2022 conditional second-round pick. The condition is if Carson Wentz ends up playing for more than 75% of the season, or he ends up playing for more than 70% of the season and the Eagles make the playoffs, then it turns into a first. So for the Eagles, they already kind of have a quarterback. They're probably going to try and rebuild, so I understand this move. And they get fair value and get rid of a tough contract if they weren't able to fix Wentz. Can the Colts fix Wentz? Well, again, let's talk about what went wrong last season. So a lot of his worst plays, like a lot of interceptions that he threw, were on plays like the one that you see on your screen, where what's going to end up happening on this play is that it's going to be a man coverage play, and you see Zach Ertz is running a route to the right side of the screen, or excuse me, to Wentz's right. This is where Wentz wants to throw to, and this is essentially going to just turn into a jump ball scenario. Watch, Wentz takes the snap, there isn't much separation, he throws anyways, and it ends up getting intercepted. You can criticize him for that if you want, but honestly, if you're asking Wentz to never throw up jump balls and only throw to open receivers, you're basically asking him to throw the ball like 9 times a game, because that's how little these Philadelphia Eagles receivers got open. I actually think it's a great disservice to Wentz. The year before, the narrative was this Eagles team was so bad and he drug a terrible team to the playoffs. That's not really that fair. We'll use Pro Football Focus as their receiving grades just to sort of use that as an example. The year before, the Philadelphia Eagles were 21st in receiving, so not great, bottom, just outside of the bottom 10, but not awful either. This year, they were ranked 32nd in the league, so that kind of shows how big of a drop-off it was this year. However, I now want to show this play because just because Wentz was in a bad situation didn't mean he didn't also make mistakes. I just made a Jalen Hurts video, and that's something I talked about with him as well. It's just because you're in a bad situation doesn't mean you can't also play poorly. And at times, Wentz did that. This play is a good example of it. It's a cover one play. It's cover one man coverage, cover one robber. And really what's going to happen is that nothing's going to get open right away, so Wentz is actually going to have to get to his third read before he finally finds something open. I'll start it and just watch Wentz. Watch how his eyes go from one different guy to another guy to a third guy. Finally, he sees an opening, and he's firing right away because you kind of have to. I mean, the second you see someone open and it's on your third read, at this point you got to just pull the trigger. And I do feel like Wentz is a little bit better when he has basically a second longer to make this throw, kind of like, a three-point shooter that maybe is a lot better when he's open. I guess everyone is, but you know what I mean, like sort of maybe we'll say a free throw guy who needs an extra second before he throws it. That kind of feels like it's the case for Wentz to some degree. Watch, he's just going to overthrow this one. I can't entirely excuse this overthrow on the fact that the other two players weren't open and he had to get to his third read. You still have to make that throw, but at the same time, I think that's something worth mentioning here. Like this play is another good example where I think the offensive line situation will be a lot better for Indianapolis. The Eagles' offensive line wasn't awful. Again, to use Pro Football Focus, they finished 16th, which is mediocre. But I think the Colts finished 7th, so you got a fringe top 5 offensive line versus a mediocre offensive line. And right here, the left tackle, that's going to be the situation right here. Watch how Chase Young is going to create pressure. It's not like this, super immediate, but pretty immediate. However, Wentz tries to continue fighting while getting tackled and loses the football. And if you look, he only had one hand on the football when that happened. And to me, that's one of Carson Wentz's biggest failures as a quarterback, is he doesn't know when to give up on a play. But I think that with Frank Reich and now this Colts coaching staff and this Colts team around Carson Wentz, I think it's a really good situation for Wentz, because really his two biggest, I would say, negatives as a quarterback, he won't have to worry about as much, and he can kind of just play his game. Like this play is another good example, I think, of just him not knowing when to give up on a play, where there's a couple things I want to talk about. First, we won't even talk about that. We'll talk about the concept itself. The way this is supposed to work is you have a receiver running a deep route, another receiver runs over the middle, and there's a play action. So the play action gets the linebackers to move in, and then you can either throw over the middle if the safety stays deep, or if the safety crashes in, then you can throw over the top, unless someone else makes a great read and is able to cover up someone else. I love these concepts. They're really good. They can work a good percentage of the time. The issue is with this play isn't the play call, it's going to be the execution right here. This attempted play action is a complete failure. They were on the opposite sides, so now Wentz is going to scramble, but there's no one near him. However, he still takes a sack right here instead of just tossing the ball out of bounds. And that's a great example of showing not giving up on a play and not taking a loss ends up in a greater loss, where if he just throws the ball out of bounds, when out, it's third down, not ideal, but, at least you live to see another down, but a 10-yard sack pretty much killed the play, and there was nobody on his side of the ball. So, it's a failure by really both parties there, by the execution and by the play concept as a whole. I just think that this is a great example of showing how these failures can happen. You compare that to some tape you would see with Frank Reich and Wentz when, they were back in 2017. This play, for example, it's going to be a man coverage play, but this is going to be an RPO, and I think the RPOs, it's something Philadelphia should have done more. I don't know why they kind of got away. They still would use them to some degree. I guess I'm answering my own question. The reason why they kind of got away with it is because they don't have a running game consistently, whereas, hey, Indianapolis does. Jonathan Taylor, that should help Wentz. And I think that it really will. Because this is a RPO. Usually you think RPOs, will play actions in general work way better against zone coverage, but especially with this route, right? Like it's man coverage. Alshon Jeffrey should be getting covered up regardless. But the issue is that if you think it's a running play, your job is to try and help out the rush. So once this play starts, notice how the defensive back kind of just goes in a little bit. And Jeffrey did a great job at selling that too. And now Carson Wentz, who's rolling out, he is under pressure, but there's someone open now. And that's what he needs. He needs guys who can get separation. We've seen him be an MVP candidate. And I thought, I do have to say, I think he was a bit overrated during the MVP candidate season. I said it at the time. I think that there were still some issues with his game, but at the same time, still, 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, I believe is what it was. That works every time, so you'll take it. And watch how he does make a throw off balance, and Alshon Jeffrey makes the grab. They get a touchdown. That was just so easy for him, And that's the thing, is you look back at 2017, things were just so easy for the Eagles. And it wasn't just Wentz was, it wasn't just Frank Reich is a genius, which, he's great. I love Frank Reich. I think he's one of the real underrated coaches in the league, in my opinion. I think that really Indianapolis' offense and defense is kind of perfect. But also at the same time, that 2017 Eagles roster was loaded, and this Colts roster is, I'm not going to call it loaded, but it's really good. I mean, I think that it's not out of the question that Wentz can play as well as Phillip Rivers did last year. I don't think that's crazy. And if they can improve, maybe get a receiver, they have cap space, I think it's a good move. And one more thing a lot of people don't fully realize is that for Carson Wentz's contract, this is the first year of that, big deal or whatever, but all the signing bonus came earlier. So actually, if the Colts cut him after this year, there's no dead cap. Now, if they keep him, they're paying him over 22 million, 25 million, and 26 million. So you basically have to either have a starting level quarterback or you have to cut him. So that's kind of the issue. But still, it's not like they're completely screwed like I think some people think. The Eagles are the ones who are having to pay a lot of this money from the contract. So, Eagles save some money with this trade, but not a ton. So yeah, very interesting. So yeah, that's what I think. I think it's a good move for both sides, but a better move from the Colts. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.